Welcome to another sparkling edition of Plank of the Week. We are here sitting in Talk Radio's TV studios about to launch ourselves with another collection of complete planks. And I'm delighted to say that I'm welcoming back this week Emily Carver, a woman who has been all over the media recently, actually. I mean, I can't stop seeing you. You're always on Talk Radio. You're on Sky quite a bit now. You're on all sorts of different media. Will Geddes is here as well, international man of mystery, as I like to call him. How are you both?
Very well.
Oh,
I'm
good.
very good.
It's been a great week for planks, hasn't it? I mean, it really has. I mean, we've been struggling actually to come together with enough to melt them all down into just the 9 that we do, because of course famously we carry one over. Don't forget, by the way, if you haven't done it, you need to subscribe to the YouTube channel where we do all sorts of other great stuff as well. Do you know how many views I had on Twitter last week alone?
Go on.
Because this is the growth of Talk Radio.
I actually do know.
730,000.
Wow.
Just on Twitter.
Wow.
Forget about YouTube. I mean,
That's
that was
amazing.
just the videos that we put out on Twitter. Absolutely amazing. So thank you to everybody for watching those. Let's start off with you, Will. Who's your first plank of the week?
Well, like you said, Mike, I mean, it's been a really tough choice because there have been so many contenders this week. I think my first nomination has got to be Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yes, I think that's a very good choice. And quite a late entry as well, because it wasn't until yesterday that they decided to throw themselves into the brink.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's brilliant that maybe they're not getting as much attention, maybe they're not getting as many customers as they'd like, or just simply jumping on the woke bandwagon of the pandemic, where they've now decided to remove what has been an iconic catchphrase of finger licking good.
I mean, when you say it though, it does sound a bit odd, doesn't it? I never
but
thought
whose
it
fingers are
until,
you licking?
Well,
That's
it doesn't really.
question.
This is the trouble. People started asking that question, and it's not really about that. It's just that when you hear it said, you see it on a sign, it doesn't really matter. But when you hear people saying it, as they have been for the last sort of 24 hours, it just doesn't sound very good as a slogan. If you walked into a marketing meeting and said, "Got a great slogan, guys. How about this? Finger licking good," you'd be going, "Get out." Just get out.
But it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Where you could be in the darkest corners of the globe.
Yeah.
And if you see that welcoming face of the Colonel
Sanders,
and that reassuring phrase of "it's finger licking good," you know there's a little piece of home.
But honestly, have you
that's
ever
there.
said the phrase until now?
No.
And how does it sound, Will? It sounds
It doesn't sound great, especially during a pandemic. I don't know. I do inhabit a dark world.
It conjures up all sorts of really, really unusual visions for me, anyway. I don't even want to go into it, but it just sounds wrong somehow.
It's kind of repulsive anyway. I mean, if someone was sitting at a dinner table with you and they start
licking their fingers,
I think he's backtracking now.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. But it is a bit ridiculous to announce it now on the grounds that they think that because of that slogan, people might be passing the coronavirus to one another.
And they're going to be safer.
Huh?
They're going to be safer. But what about a sharing bucket, Because, there's a
I don't
bucket
like the sound of that
share.
either, to be honest.
Well, again, it's all kind of...
Is this like a social responsibility thing rather than a
might
PR thing? Is this them showing they
I don't
care?
know. Could we? I mean,
we've now got a situation where when you play
is.
golf, you're not allowed to put your ball into the hole because you're not supposed to put your hand in there because
What?
it might. Yeah, you're not. People are playing golf, but they're not actually putting the ball in the hole because that's not allowed under the rules. Because otherwise, too many hands will go in, and it could be a potential source of the infection.
Can you get COVID-19 from grass?
Well, it's not grass technically. It's a metal kind of internal hole thing, isn't it?
Not being a golfer.
We're going to look back at this moment in time and just think, what the hell were we thinking?
Do you know, I've got a confession about it. I've never ever had Kentucky Fried Chicken. I've never eaten it.
I haven't either.
Have you not?
I actually had it for the first time not so long ago,
really?
and it really didn't meet with my expectations.
Well, do you know what I love is that there's all kinds of copycat fried chicken places in South London. I don't know if it's the same everywhere else, but in South London, if you go down the Old Kent Road, you literally can't go for 10 yards without Southern fried chicken or Deptford fried chicken or something like that.
Chicken Hut.
Chicken. And there's just loads and loads of imitators who have got fried chicken in the title, but presumably are safe from copyright. They haven't had the Kentucky Fried Chicken lawyers down.
Just don't get the Colonel.
And they don't use the Colonel's picture, and of course they don't use the phrase "finger licking good" because presumably that's copyrighted.
But
so they're now going to have to go around every single outlet and scrub it out.
Well, exactly. How much is that going to cost them in the rebranding?
Right.
And I've got another branding contender for my planks this week, which I'll come on to later. But it's going to cost them a fortune removing it. Aren't they a wee bit late? 3-4 months down the line to start saying, if this is a COVID-19 pandemic related piece of public health advice that we want to give.
Right.
That is it really going to achieve a great deal? I think it's just remember we're here.
Yeah.
You know, if you're feeling hungry.
And you wonder, don't you, Emily, about the thought process behind deciding to come out and say it, because they could have done it, as you say, any number of times. Years gone by, could have done it in March, April, they could have done. Why did they do it now?
I haven't seen their sales figures, so maybe they're in the pan. Maybe they're drying up. People just don't like that slogan. They've probably done a survey or two, you know.
But
these people aren't all stupid.
I went the other day.
You went the other day. Well, I'm more of a McDonald's kind of person, I'd say.
Yes, I would say I'm more of a McDonald's person.
I'm kind of I have the craving for McDonald's, and then like 45 minutes later, I regret it.
If I've had one, I don't then have to have one for quite a long time.
Yeah.
I'm not a massive fast food fan, actually. Although there's a Wimpy in Bermondsey High Street, or Bermondsey Park Road. And I stopped there the other day, so I thought, I haven't had a Wimpy for years. It was really good.
I believe that's where my parents had their first date.
Well, the original Wimpys used to be
table
great,
service.
But they had very unusually sort of specific burgers, which nobody else could reproduce. This one just tasted like a really good burger. It didn't taste like the old Wimpys, which were really small and in funny rolls.
Like shoe leather.
Yeah, and you'd go in and they'd have, I remember as a child, it was so long ago, I'm not going to tell you, but they used to have these, tomato sauce in a sort of plastic bottle.
Yeah.
Which wasn't actually ketchup, it was just their own stuff.
Exactly.
And it was cool.
It's brilliant. It was shaped like a tomato, and it had like the green leaf at the top with a nozzle at the top.
That's exactly right.
See, Emily, you don't know what you missed.
I actually do know what you mean.
Really?
Yeah.
They could probably buy these now, retro. You could probably buy these.
I don't have one at home, no.
I think we may be getting too carried away with the food. Anyway, tell us about your first one.
Anyway, my first plank is someone I love to hate, and it's Meghan Markle.
Yeah, yes.
Although it could be the two of them. I mean, I can't quite believe they still have their titles.
I know. It's really quite remarkable, isn't it? Because they veer in and out of the plank of the week. They haven't been in it for a while together, but they've certainly been in it both together and separately.
Yeah, I mean, what's been winding me up this week is the amount of Zoom calls Meghan has been making.
Well, considering that she went to America to sort of hide away from the public eye, she's always on television, constantly. She's constantly making videos. I mean, like one a day.
I know, poor Meghan. She just had to get out of the limelight. But these Zoom calls have become more and more cringeworthy. I can't quite believe that she's saying what she is. She told us that she is... sorry, I've lost my train of thought.
Was it about the voting?
Pardon?
Was it
the one about
voting?
urging everybody not to vote for Donald Trump without actually saying it?
In a very, very subtle way, wasn't it? It was,
you know what to do.
And what I feel really sad for is Harry's just stood on the side like that.
Yeah.
You know, while she's just coming across with her best...
He looks like a husk, doesn't he? He just literally looks like a husk. And then the other one, where it's just her and not him, presumably he's filming her.
Presumably he's standing there, you know, holding the camera, egging her on.
Really?
Although I do believe
I think they got a whole film crew there. I think makeup artists.
I wouldn't be surprised.
She sat there in her multi-billion-pound mansion, presumably, talking about privilege, talking about unconscious bias, talking about how this US election, and she takes a big, deep breath inwards and says,
only 75 days away.
Yeah, there's only 75 days away. We need change. We need to do better for this. We all need to come together and materialise this new future for America. And it's just puke enticing, isn't it?
It really is.
What on earth gives her the right to spout
all these
forth
woke
like this?
types, when they say we want to come together, actually that's not what they mean. They mean that they want you to vote for the other person who's not Donald Trump.
Exactly.
No matter who it is, whether it's Joe Biden. I'll tell you what I found interesting, and I don't know whether you saw the video that we did from last week. Biden made his acceptance speech, right? And he sounded normal again. I'm saying that he was somehow, wasn't his voice, because it sounded like Joe Biden from about 10 years ago, you know, quite a strong voice, quite sort of, you know, determined. But now he talks very haltingly and with a very weak, thin voice. And the voice that came out of the convention virtually was not the voice that he normally speaks with. It sounded much less weak, much more kind of definitive. And I'm wondering whether it was a pre-recorded, messed around with video, whereby he was actually miming the speech. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time they'd come up with some dirty tricks, would it?
I wouldn't be that surprised. I mean, to be honest, I think, can we take anything at face value in terms of the electioneering that's going on over there at the moment? And any of the information, any of the stats from all sides. I think I feel sorry for the American public in terms of how their vote is being swayed right now, and as to who they have to pledge
And
their
Trump's
allegiance
basically
to.
saying if he loses, it will be because they cheated him out of winning, which is a masterstroke, actually.
Oh, but
because,
did you see their recent the Republican Party's sort of ad that's gone out, which basically is just like everything's going to be disastrous, everybody's going to die,
Right.
the whole country's going to fall apart if you vote in the Democrats. I mean, the whole thing is a complete mess. I mean, it's a nightmare.
America's in a terrible place at the moment.
Yeah,
as well,
it's not
isn't
good.
It's horrific. I mean, we look at our culture wars, it's just absolutely horrendous over there. Can't quite believe that these are the two people they have to choose between.
I know. It really is hard to imagine that you can't find two people who are sort of under 70, you know, who are not completely and utterly, completely opposing ends of the spectrum, fighting each other for the best job in the world, because you've got to think of it as the best job in the world. It's got to be a great job.
I can't think of another country where there are two pretty rotten opposition sides. Can you?
Well, I just hope Trump wins, because it'll be great fun.
Else to vote for.
It'll just be very funny if Trump wins, so I'm hoping that he does. My first nomination is the BBC. Now, I did wonder whether it would be a particular part of the BBC, whether it would be the outgoing Director General, who basically Lord Tony Hall of Birkenhead, who left the job, multi-million-pound job, with a very nice pension, to go off to the Edinburgh Television Festival to say basically that the BBC needs more money, not less, in order to protect everybody in this country from fake news. And he also said that the BBC should become the voice of Britain after Brexit. So he clearly hasn't learned anything during his tenure as the very well-paid, Director General. Instead of being the voice of Britain, though, they decided to cancel the last night of the proms. And, I mean, they finally now sort of rescinded slightly on the grounds that, all right, then, I'll tell you what, we'll hire in this Finnish conductor who's basically told us we're too nationalistic, which I don't think we need to be told by someone from Finland. Thank you very much indeed. No more Land of Hope and Glory. No more Rule Britannia. We can't have any of that. It's far too jingoistic. So they went, all right, then. And I mean, that's what it's for, the last night of the proms, singing those two songs. And it's not jingoistic, it's not nationalistic, it's just fun, apart from anything else. And I've been playing the songs all week, and it actually does make you feel quite good. They're very rousing pieces of music, you know?
They're so rousing, and it's also this £100 million of extra funding for diversity that they're planning to pump in, which is just ludicrous. I mean, the BBC has diversity coming out of its,
rear end. Yes.
Well, they've got so many different diversity campaigns.
No, it's hard to believe, isn't it?
They're more diverse than the general public.
Oh, they certainly
they're
are.
doing pretty well in that respect.
Well, this is the thing, and I mean, I said to somebody the other day, I'm looking forward to the number of white working class people they're going to hire, because if you walk into Broadcasting House, you won't find anybody who's white and working class. And in fact, you won't find anybody who's working class at all, because all of the diverse people that they have working there have all been to private school, or they've all been to university. They're not ordinary people off the street.
No.
You know, they're just very privileged people who happen to be from different ethnic minority backgrounds. So actually, everyone at the BBC is the same.
But I just don't understand how they're not listening to all the people who are telling them this isn't the diversity that we need.
No.
We need diversity of opinion. I mean, people keep saying it does not seem to get into their...
No. Well, they don't know anybody.
But
that's because they don't know anyone with a different opinion, do they?
No. I mean, it's fundamentally the diversity plan, as far as I can see it. And this applies almost wholesale to so many organisations that it's a box tick. Are we ticking this box? Are we ticking this box? Rather than, as you say, coming up with an intelligent solution and saying, OK, which demographics really need our help and support? So, for example, what about new hires of individuals over the age of 55, say, or veterans for that matter, or homeless, or various individuals, rather than going, well, we've got to appeal to this minority or this minority or this minority by ticking the boxes.
I mean, they haven't even got a sort of intern program which allows people to enter the organisation from a particularly, say, underprivileged area. They don't even have that. You'd think they would do that. Wouldn't that be the first thing you would do?
Yeah, exactly.
You'd say, right, I'll tell you what, we're going to have a sort of scholarship programme of some kind where we're going to go into the poorest parts of Britain, whether they be somewhere like, I don't know, Bury or Blackburn. I'm not saying that they're all poor in the north, that would be wrong. But, go to somewhere where there's deprivation and start awarding some decent jobs, give some people some hope.
Yeah,
instead of which they just go...
That, doesn't it? It starts in our schools as well, where there's a lack of quality of education going on around the country that we need to fix first before the BBC can really get diversity.
I think a day doesn't go by that I go on Twitter and see defund the BBC.
Well,
I think
quite a big
everyone's
movement
getting
now.
really sick and tired of basically the BBC are doing this kind of slightly preachy approach right now, and I think there's obviously good elements there, and they produce some fantastic products.
They do.
And they
But then,
generate a lot of revenue.
But the other thing they did this week was, in addition, I should just finish the point about the Land of Hope and Glory, they're going to allow the songs to be played, but without the lyrics.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be able to actually hear what the words say,
What's the
because
point?
that might be a bit dangerous, apparently, because you might somehow get influenced by it, and you might, go off running off and start a revolution or something. I mean, I don't know. But they also did this week announced that, well, we're going to have cutbacks, so we're going to do away with the news. And you go, what? The 6 o'clock news and the 10 o'clock news are going to be consigned, apparently, to online only. So you won't be able to watch it on a telly. I mean, isn't that what they're supposed to be doing?
They're just scrambling around to try and pick up, I don't know, younger generations who they've already lost now. They should give up on that. They should stick to what they do well and just leave it at that. Because
just
at the moment,
David Attenborough out on a daily basis. Keep the news.
Well, he's not going to be around
but
forever,
they're
is he?
trying to appeal to my generation with these god-awful podcasts about unconscious bias and about, wokeism and about, I don't know, BLM, and it's just, come on now.
They've got some very odd sexually oriented ones as well, which you just kind of go, who would have even come up with that idea? It's so ridiculous.
Like what?
I can't remember. There was one I saw the other day about women talking about things that they did. I can't remember what it's called, but it's an official BBC podcast. I can't remember who was on it, but I just went, you would no longer listen to that than you would listen to somebody boring a hole in a wall. It just sounds awful, sounds tasteless, doesn't sound like very funny. Yeah. It just sounds horrendous. Just awful.
I don't know whether you guys are the same as me.
Gynecological.
The only things I ever watch live on the BBC is probably the news.
Yeah.
And the news. And everything else I go on iPlayer for. And literally, I am struggling to find anything. I think the last decent thing that I saw was the Murdoch's documentary, which was really good.
Well, when you say decent, it wasn't actually any good. It was a level of cobblers.
They could have made it certainly a 10
they could have made it a bit more truthful.
There was only 3 parts to it, wasn't there?
Well, it's just every
the Iraq War one, that was a really good one.
It didn't have very many facts in it, though. Well, they left a lot of other facts that they could have put in out.
Obviously, there are talented people at the BBC, but there's so much other competition. Yeah. And every single drama seems to have some sort of underlying woke messaging to sort of educate the plebs. And it just winds people up.
Also, they keep employing the same people. You put the TV on and it's the same, that's the bloke from that other show. Yeah. That he was in the last big sort of period drama that they did, and it's just like...
Not a huge period drama fan.
Me neither,
Yeah.
No,
I don't mind a period drama.
No surprise.
Well, I suppose you would like a period drama.
Quite nice.
Yeah, but they can't do those now, apart from having they have to have mad sexual scenes in them, and it has to be completely...
Hang on, which one was that?
Well, all of them.
What's wrong with that?
Well, I don't particularly necessarily need to watch period drama sex scenes. I just, they can do without them.
Yeah, but it's already piquing my interest a bit more now.
Well, you've got to get through an awful lot of horrible, other ghastly, boring stuff.
Thank God for the fast forward, Mike.
Maybe you can fast forward. My Freeview box stopped working for a while. Yeah. I thought it was because my remote wasn't working, but it turned out it was
actually... You've got a Freeview box?
I've got a Freeview box, yeah, because my television...
You're such a snob.
It's my television, which is supposed to have Freeview on it. Is not connected to an aerial, so I had to get a booster box. So they said to me, the best thing you can do is get a Freeview box, because I don't pay for Sky. I don't think it's worth it. It's a ridiculous amount of money.
It's a lot of money.
Well, it is, and it's not much. Again, there's not an awful lot to watch on it. I watch Sky News. That's about it. But I found myself for an entire week without using any of the channels of regular television. It didn't matter because I don't really watch it anyway.
Yeah.
So I was quite happy with Amazon, Netflix, YouTube.
I think I've done Netflix now. I think I've lapped it now.
And I didn't miss it. So anyway, I fixed it because in the end, what I thought I would do, rather than schlepping off to get a new remote, I unplugged it for 5 minutes and plugged it back in again, and it was just stuck. And then now it works again. So it goes to show you. So I'm sorry that I've got a Freeview box. My apologies for being so backward. Anyway, Will, give us your second one.
Okay, so my next one is Avanti trains.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so...
Now, where do they run? Because I'm not sure who they are.
I think it's down in the southwest.
Oh, is it? Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. I may have got this wrong. You're going to correct me?
I'm never sure where any of them... obviously Southeast
I don't take a train,
Southwest trains.
I'm more of a driving kind of guy.
There's literally nobody on them.
You know what? I came on the tube today, and I've been using the tube pretty much every day, and there's like 5 people in a carriage. So
it's amazing, isn't it?
It really is quite astounding.
But the traffic is horrendous. Nice. People are obviously paying the congestion charge. They don't seem to care because the traffic has never been worse.
Yeah, it's horrendous.
Yeah.
But Avanti trains, what they've decided to do is, because obviously, most people are never happy with their train service or their train provider.
Right.
And usually there's complaints of lacking of customer service or
cancelled
trains, or certainly reduction. Fees, the costs and fares are going up on a regular case and a regular basis. So probably rather than invest in maybe all those areas, a really good idea would be to jump on the woke train again and paint your entire livery in pride colours.
Oh, for God's sake.
And you know what? Before I get all the haters hunting me down on Twitter, I actually spoke to some of my gay mates about this. And I said, look, okay, I'm seeing Mike and Emily, I'm going to read. What's your view on this?
I'm slightly worried I might be a bigot.
Yeah, exactly. And they turned around for a change. And they turned around to me and they said, oh my God, it's just embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's getting to that point of just being embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's almost like, it's like the children all sat in the room and they're going, little Timmy, stand up and sing us a song.
Yeah.
It's like, really, we don't need this attention.
Right.
It's almost too much.
Well, this is it. I mean, I saw
and it can't have been cheap. Can't have been cheap to do all of that.
No.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I saw somebody the other day actually complaining about the whole. It sort of came from that conversation about the BAME community, because people who are of black and minority ethnic backgrounds are not the same. It's to sort of lump them all in as if they are is totally ludicrous.
That would wind me
and
up
somebody
so
gay
much.
and somebody gay came out and said the same thing. They were like, because we all get lumped in with this LGBTQ plus A minus, whatever the hell it is. And they're like, we're not all the same, all homogenous individuals. We're not the same.
We
so
don't
stop
all want
treating us.
multicoloured trains.
No. And so just because you're gay doesn't mean you want the train to be multicoloured.
Yeah.
Does it?
Is it going to make you travel on an Avanti more?
It might make some people travel on it less.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't know. I mean, I think they could have done something. Maybe they wanted to just do the driver's cabin. But this is the entire length of the train. And it's just, for me, whenever I see kind of really ridiculous spending and investment on things which ultimately you're going to get very minimal return from. Whereas, okay, I don't use their trains, but there are probably quite a few of your viewers of this show that do.
Yeah.
And they'll be thinking, there are so many better ways that it could be done. Chairs get reupholstered, so it's slightly more comfortable
Well,
on
how
the long
about you
drive.
don't actually run a ridiculously useless bus service on a Sunday,
Yeah.
which is when quite a lot of people need to travel.
Yeah.
Or you go somewhere and you need to come back from there, but on a Sunday, you can't because there's no train. It's because it's Sunday.
Yeah.
Also, wasn't Pride Month like a couple of months ago
I was going
now?
to say, yeah, I think it's a while ago, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know there was an
Was
actual
it Pride
month.
year now?
I didn't know there was an actual
It's Pride year
month.
now, Mike.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Blimey.
They had Pride Day, now it's Pride Month, so,
Why not?
maybe Pride year.
Why not?
Okay.
But even still,
But
even
you know
if it is
what I
Pride
found
year.
out only the other day? Apparently, the government continues to subsidise these various different train lines to the same extent, regardless of how many passengers they carry. So the fact that they're not actually getting any revenue at all, they don't care.
No.
Because they get the same money from the government that they got anyway.
Exactly.
It's a total. I mean, I don't know who controls these government contracts, but whoever is doing it is a complete idiot and should be a plank.
Like the Serco.
Like the Serco thing, yeah.
Like the
There you go.
Serco ring up. I said this, you ring up, you go, hi, I'm from Serco. Oh, great, we'll put you straight through because you've already got these other contracts with us. So you want another one? Yeah, we'd like one now for shipping all these migrants from Dover up to various points of the rest of the country. We're going to put them up in a load of hotels. How much do you want for that? About 3 billion. Okay then, great. Marvellous. It takes that off our hands.
Nice work if you
it's
can get it.
It's not bad, is it? I mean, I'd love to be running a company like that. You don't even actually have to do anything because you then hire the other coach company, you hire the hotel company, you just pocket the money.
Yeah. I think
It's incredible.
just like any of us taxpayers, I think it's the Avanti thing for me particularly was just like, okay, my taxes may not directly go towards that investment, but it's just looking at this sort of public spending and you just think, what is it? Just a couple of kids with an abacus and a bag of crayons and go, well, we'll do a bit of this and we'll sign off on that. And I don't know.
It's not their money. They don't care. Who's your number 2, Emily?
So my number 2 is a new story that's come out today, I think. It's the director of the British Museum.
Oh, yes.
And his name is Director Hartwig Fisher.
Awesome. That's a good name.
Hartwig.
He's not
That
finished.
That is a good name.
I don't know, it sounds
could
kind
be.
of
It
like
sounds
he
a bit
is.
German,
They're all
doesn't
at it.
Yeah.
They just want to...
This is what happens when you join the European Union. Suddenly everything's being run by Europeans.
taking our history,
Hartwig.
So
taking our...
what did Hartwig do?
So He decided that because of BLM and because of all these conversations that they needed to remove the statue, the breast of the Sir Hans Sloane, who was the founder of the British Museum, if you didn't know, and is responsible for the first 71,000 artefacts.
Okay.
That sort of
Hans
started.
is his name.
Hans Sloane.
So Hans, so he's not English either
No,
then,
he
by the
doesn't
sounds of
English
it.
either.
I'm surprised they call it the British Museum at all. What's going on? Hans.
Anyway, they decided to remove this, and you could say fair enough. It's the director's choice. He's trying to put it somewhere else with better signage, saying that this man was involved in colonialism and the slave trade, which is fair enough. But it was the justification that he gave that was just so bizarre and showed such a lack of understanding of where we are in this debate around culture and the culture wars. He said, the way he justified his action, he said that he wants to rewrite our shared, complicated, and at times very painful history. So this man has actually admitted to the public in his statement that he wants to rewrite history.
I mean, didn't that used to be an insult? When you go, are you trying to rewrite history? Yes.
He's the director of the British Museum. His job is to look after artefacts, right?
And history.
Not to and history.
Yeah.
Preserve history, you would have thought, but no, he wants to rewrite history. And
that's extraordinary.
It sort of beggars belief, doesn't it?
It does.
And he also, I don't know where they get these words and turns of phrase from, because he said, healing is knowledge. Now, do you know what that means?
No.
So this is all part of the healing process that is, in and of itself, knowledge.
Is that like, I'm feeling better?
Well, you're feeling better because you've been told something that did happen actually never happened.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, people want to be proud of their history. They want to know about their history, sure, if you're at the British Museum. But surely this statue of the founder of the museum should stay there.
Yeah.
Yes, we can put a little sign to say that he got his money and his artefacts, perhaps not in the way that you would now in 2020. But it's just madness, and I think that people are sick and tired of having this sort of onslaught against their culture.
Are they putting his statue somewhere in the building? Or?
Yeah, they're going to put it elsewhere with a little more context.
Unbelievable.
But this is the founder of the museum.
This is ridiculous.
I mean, the next thing that will happen is they'll stop calling it the British Museum.
Yeah,
they'll just call it the museum. Right? Like the BBC will stop being the British Broadcasting Corporation.
But I don't think we're that far off that.
I don't think
At
we
the
are.
moment, it really does feel like that.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people say, oh, it's just one or two things here and there. This is just, manufactured conversation. But it's really not.
It's like the refrain of, it's just a load of gammons getting upset about a song. Land of Hope and Glory, who cares, Well, it's not just about a song, actually. It's about, as exactly you say, this whole but it's about this whole movement that's of people who seem to hate what it is that we stand for and hate where we came from, hate what we used to do, and basically hate British history. And it's a shame to hear that the man that's running the British Museum hates British history.
I know, and people throwing around the word jingoistic as if people are scum just for wanting to sing
nationalism
the
apparently now
anthem.
is an insult. Oh, you're one of those nationalists. Well, yeah.
Do you know what I do now? I just say, and?
Yeah, I'm quite proud of my country. What's wrong with that?
It's just this oversensitivity. So, I mean, good example.
Scots are allowed to be.
Yeah, if you're not nationalistic up there, that's an insult.
But this deletion of our history, and albeit maybe the parts of our history that we're a bit ashamed of or weren't brilliant, and on reflection now, we may think, hang on, that was pretty ill-judged, or it was bad, or who knows whether it was the circumstances. But a good example was I watched a classic last night on TV. I watched The Long Good Friday.
Oh, yes.
When was the last time you saw that?
Film. I haven't seen that for a few years, actually. Because it hasn't been on anything for a while.
No, and that was on in the 80s, and it's a classic gangster film, London gangster film, if you haven't seen it, Emily. And it was made in the 80s, and there were so many things, so many racist things, misogynistic things that they do, just as a matter of course, which was kind of accepted at that time. But you watch now and you cringe, and I actually felt myself quite a few times going, oh, they didn't say that.
We've changed, and we know that we've changed.
Exactly, and we recognise it. Now, does that mean, we should delete movies like that so we don't know about it? No, the only way we can learn is by looking back on things with a new perspective and going, maybe that wasn't the best way to approach it.
Yeah.
Mad Men, brilliant series.
Yeah.
Maybe that wouldn't be able to be made now.
Maybe
even
not.
though it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, when they say things like Little Britain can't be made now, I don't even think that was that long ago. It probably was 10 or 15 years, I suppose. But, you kind of go, really? Why not? And they're having this big debate now about Spitting Image, aren't they? Because Spitting Image, apparently, I don't think they're actually going to broadcast on regular, what they call linear television. I think you're going to have to go somewhere and find it.
Oh, really?
Either on the iPad. Yeah, because they're too nervous. And they're now worried about, Meghan and Harry, for example. They're now worried whether they can even do Meghan, because if they do, anything they do will be considered racist.
Or they'll sue.
Well, I know they might sue as well, yeah.
But it's the idea that you can sort of control how people feel and think just by banning things, and it's just...
I mean, how can you ban satire? I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's satirical in itself.
Spitting image will be awful, I'm sure.
I mean, can you imagine if you're only allowed to... I was listening to Hawksby and Jacobs yesterday, funnily enough, and Andy Jacobs said, you know, if you're only allowed to satirise one group of people, you might as well not bother. Surely you can satirise everyone. Isn't that the point?
Also, people aren't so vulnerable.
Right.
This is like a new form of racism, isn't it?
It really is.
They can't...
And it's not just about racism, it's about everything. It's about, you know, anything that they don't want you to think.
Yeah.
You can't think. Well,
and if you oppose the majority, or the minority for that matter, then you're in trouble.
I know. It really is bizarre. Well, my second nomination is the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail, for me, has gone from being one of the great newspapers of the world to one of the worst. And it's not an accident, and that's because Paul Dacre, who was one of the great editors, has been removed because he wasn't considered woke enough and replaced by a guy called Geordie Greig, who's an old Etonian. He's a baronet, right? But he's also a Champagne socialist, and he's also a Remainer. So he's totally changed the Daily Mail from what it was, which was an old-fashioned, fairly right-of-centre newspaper with what you might call traditional values, right? They published a story this week about Boris Johnson being on holiday. Now, whether you like Boris Johnson or not, I think the guy has an entitlement to go on holiday, considering what happened to him this year. I mean, I felt pretty sorry for him, actually. He's sitting on the side of a cliff somewhere in the west coast of Scotland, where it's not very hot, where the midges literally come at you, you know, 10 to the dozen. He's got a baby in a papoose, right? And he's got his young girlfriend, and he's in a tent. I mean, that doesn't sound like a holiday to me, right? But they then say, and they do a picture of the cottage, which is obviously quite an unusual looking cottage, picture of the tent. I don't think they actually had a picture of him because they hadn't managed to do that. And they were very proudly pronouncing the fact that they weren't revealing the location where he was. And it's like, you've just published a picture of where he is. How are you not revealing the location? There's some suggestion that the name of where he, or the town where he was staying, which was somewhere near Wester Ross, if you know that part of the world, up near Apple Cross, which is it is a beautiful part of the world, but not the sort of place to go in the summer, because the midges literally, I mean, if you've never been there, you don't know. My father used to go hiking in the Cairngorms up to quite a late age because he just loved doing it. He would take his easel and he would go painting and stuff. And he used to come back with a face like a sort of football that had been punctured because he was so badly bitten. Because he would camp. He once said to me, "Do you want to come with me?" I'm just been joking. You know, I'm from North London, mate. I'm not going anywhere near mountains and midges.
North of Watford.
You know, sorry, not happening. But it's awful, absolutely awful. But I just think, you know, the fuss that they made. They put it pages 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
So much so that in the end he had to leave. Because obviously the Scots, many of them, particularly the Scot Nats, are not very keen on Boris Johnson. And the security implications alone, I mean, you're a guy that does security. What you don't want is somebody publishing the house that the Prime Minister is staying in.
No, exactly.
It was really irresponsible.
Yeah, no, so I think that was really mean of the paper. I think, as you say, look, love him or hate him, the guy needs a bit of a holiday considering obviously what's happened this year and the fact he's had COVID-19 and he's recovering from that and he's got a new child and he's with his girlfriend. You know, give the guy a week off without compromising him. And you're right, he would have had to up sticks and go. You're going to disagree, aren't you?
No. I mean, he can have a holiday. I'm all for that. I was just looking at Carrie, feeling a bit sad. I mean, is this what she imagined life would be like with the Prime Minister? Well, she probably thought she'd be on the back of a super yacht somewhere with a glass of champagne.
This is the trouble now for people, isn't it? Remember Cameron and his wife had to go to Cornwall. And I mean, these are the people who've got more money than God, right? I mean, she's even richer than he is.
Very nice, Mike.
You know, well, it is nice, but it's a hell of a place to get to and get back from. And it's also full of people who don't want you to be there. You know, the Cornish are putting up signs saying, don't bother coming.
Oh,
Go home.
Don't speed in Cornwall. I got 3 points this year from them.
I just thought it was so funny because you had this tent, like, what, about 200 metres, 100 metres away from this very, this humble cottage. And it's like, why have they got a tent as well? It was so confusing.
Also, they made a great scene of the fact that it was £1,500 a week. You know, I mean, I can imagine how much Geordie Greig's summer holiday place cost him. Probably more like 20 grand. I should think he'd spit on a place that was only $1,500 a week. You know, so again, they just seem to get it completely wrong. The Mail, you know, they've this week they've gone with some more of the kind of more traditional type stuff about Rule Britannia and all that, and they're sort of on the side of the ordinary. But Daily Mail readers used to be the kind of the you know, the weather vane of what elections were going to be like and what people actually, you know, if it was on the front page of the Daily Mail, you thought that's Middle England right there. And I don't think doing Boris Johnson on holiday is Middle England at all.
No. I just think it's mean-spirited.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
I
mean-spirited.
don't think the British people are like that.
No, they're really not.
No.
They're not. And they're not going to look at that and go, most people are
It's a
going to have...
Guardian front page,
It really
isn't
is.
it?
It's a Guardian front page. It's a Mirror front page. You know,
Mirror,
the Mirror
yeah.
is one of the worst papers now of all time. So bad that, you know, they've got nobody working there who's any good, effectively, and they just don't seem to know what the hell they do. They don't appeal to the working class Labour vote anymore, because there isn't one, because all the working class Labour vote's gone to vote for the Brexit Party. So they're lost, completely
No, they're going
lost.
with all the identity politics stuff,
Yeah.
and it's just, yeah.
It's all over the place. Anyway, give us your number 3.
I'm going to get even more haters probably than the Avanti trains for this one. So my real bugbear, and I preface this with the fact that I am a cyclist, is cyclists in London. And it's
Just all of them.
cyclists...
Yeah, all of them. Absolutely.
Now, all of the ones who are on the pavement and run the red lights.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's all of them.
yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
And I have to say, they're all planks as far as I'm concerned who do that. It is contrary to the highway code, but there seems to be, and actually the worst of the worst have got to be the Santander bike riders. They're literally, you know,
Oh,
the
yeah.
old
Well,
Boris
those are the
bikes.
amateurs, aren't they?
Yeah, these are the guys who just literally, you know, it's like the old saying in our world, what's the fastest car in the world,
Yeah.
Mike?
It's a rental car.
Exactly. Yeah. So the Santander bikes,
PJ O'Rourke told me that.
yeah, Santander bikes are pretty much the same situation. So these guys are all over the place. And for me, just on the pavement, it just does my head in. I don't even mind the scooters, the electronic scooters. Don't mind
That's
them.
going to be a big, massive problem, though.
It may
That's
become
gonna
a
get
big
lot
problem,
worse.
but they're not bothering me now. But the fact that we've spent so much money creating these beautiful cycle lanes where most of Park Lane is
using
gone, most of
beautiful
the embankment's
ironically,
gone,
I
most
would
of
assume.
Hyde Park's gone
Yeah.
for these cycle lanes, and none of them are using them,
No.
or only a few people are using them. It drives me insane.
I know.
And I am seriously considering for a week just imaging every
Yeah.
infraction by a
Well,
cyclist.
you can
and just
count one from me this
count them
morning,
all up.
because
Go on.
I was crossing Tower Bridge Road this morning on the way into work.
Yeah.
And there was a red light, and I stopped, and this cyclist came past me, and he took one leg off the right-hand side of the bike, so he kept his sort of left foot, you know, on the other side, and
Yeah.
so he was still on the bike, and he just didn't stop, just carried on. I don't know whether by
Yeah.
doing that he had somehow made that less of an offence, but I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
But I mean, they're always going through red lights.
I mean, not to out myself, but I've taken a few journeys on a Santander bike, no
have you done them
helmet.
after drinking?
helmet.
And
Because a lot of
I
people do it
probably
after
was a
drinking.
bit of a
On the
danger, to be
pavement?
fair. Pardon? No, not on the pavement.
Thank you.
On a cycle lane. But I mean, it probably wasn't the safest
No.
thing. I imagine
but
you
at
would have
least-
been like, look at that woman,
No,
what's
but
she
look,
doing?
on the road, I don't have a problem. Cycle lanes don't have a problem. It's when they're on pavements.
Yeah.
That's what does my
The
head
problem
in,
now
you
as
know?
well, though, is that there's so many of them, you
Yeah.
know? And of course, they will always say, well, it's a lot healthier, it's a great way to get around, it's quicker. Probably all true. However, you know, I don't wish to travel by cycle to work because I've listened to the radio,
Yeah.
I've got a very nice car, I like sitting in it, I like driving in it, I don't like getting wet when it's raining. You know, sorry, call me old-fashioned. But, you know, there's loads of them now. There's literally
Yeah.
thousands of them in traffic, weaving in and out,
Yeah.
you know, dangerously. I'm surprised more of them don't get killed.
I mean, I'm torn because obviously it'd be nicer if there wasn't pollution. It'd be nicer if it was
Yeah.
really clean air in London. But at the moment, they seem to be making it worse with these
Well, they are.
cycle lanes that just take up what could be 2 lanes
Yeah.
for traffic. And then you just have all the car exhaust
There's
just
now,
coming.
well, there's, at the moment as well, massive pollution because of the fact that there's not
Yeah.
only all of these bikes around and the bike lanes, but there's now these ridiculous, and I'm going to come on to Sadiq Khan in a minute, these ridiculous blue and red fences that they've put out into the middle of the road. So the road becomes even smaller because you have to
Oh,
have
yeah,
social
yeah, for the
distancing
pedestrians
for
to
the
social
pavement
distance,
where
yeah.
nobody's walking, by
No,
the way.
exactly.
There isn't anyone. I mean,
Yeah.
outside Borough Market, where we were the other
Yeah.
week, you know, the road is kind of now, you know, concertinaed into literally one lane on either side, and you can't actually do anything but sit in traffic.
Yeah.
And then there's a temporary traffic light, which only allows about 3 cars through at a time. I mean, literally, I was sitting for 20 minutes the other
Yeah.
day on a road around the back of Jamaica Road because there was a temporary traffic light and people were digging up next to it. And people just were coming through and not letting anybody go the other way.
20 minutes.
20
you
minutes.
must have been infuriated.
I wasn't happy. But it was so, it went beyond rage because it was, you know, that point where you're just going to go and,
I can't do anything.
I don't know what I'm going to do. I
Yeah,
mean,
you
I
just gotta be
I'm
patient.
either
I
going to
mean-
get out and shoot someone,
But London's
or
terrible
I'm just going
now.
to sit here.
London's terrible now. The roads are so congested.
Right.
And look, I'm with you. I mean, I'm all for cycling. I'm all for cutting down the pollution. And I think Sadiq Khan having hoofed up, obviously, the congestion charge criminally, in my estimation.
Yeah, 15 quid.
Yeah, but also extending it till 10:30 at
Yeah.
night and weekends.
Yeah.
I mean, really, is that helping local
Of course it's
business?
not.
No, it's basically refilling his coffers.
Right.
for spending money on nonsense and frippery,
PR.
probably, and PR, exactly.
Yeah.
But so cyclists, you have my love, unless you're on the pavement and you're coming in my direction.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly right. Your final one?
Now I fear we're becoming too London-centric. My next one is Sean Bailey, who is the Conservative mayoral candidate. Yes, well, I
Well, a lot
like
of people
him.
liked him until the other day.
Yeah, I like him. I would prefer him to win over Sadiq Khan, of course. But he decided to come out today or yesterday with a proposal that he clearly thought was very clever and would solve the drugs crisis in the UK. But essentially, he wants to mandate businesses with over 250 employees to have random drug testing at work. And this is at a time where surely we want to get people back into the office. Do we really think that shaming, I don't know, Mike in HR for having a few spliffs over the weekend is the right way to go about it?
I mean, he does have a point that there is a huge number of people in sort of middle-class white-collar jobs who do fuel the cocaine trade in the city and in also other parts of the country. It's not just a London thing. But, I mean, it's not just about that, is it? I mean, he claims that basically if everybody gave up coke, there wouldn't be any gangs. It's like the people who say, it's like when Black Lives Matter say, oh, we'll just defund the police and legalise all drugs and that'll be fine. And you're like, right, okay then. So you don't think there'd be any drug overlords then? No, you just give it all to companies and they can run it that way.
It's just another regulatory burden on companies that are trying to employ and boost the economy. I mean, how many hoops do they need to go through? Imagine having random drug tests at work. I mean, fair enough if you're operating like heavy machinery or if you're a pilot, but that should be the decision of the company, no?
Well, also, there are some companies that do it. I think,
of course, there are.
A lot of companies do.
But there's no point in mandating it. One, and also two, who's going to administer these tests?
And how do you police it as well?
And so the idea is that you would have a breakdown, I guess, like an annual, top to bottom, which businesses have the most drug users in them, and then it would shame the businesses. But it wouldn't shame the staff because they would remain anonymous. So it's a very bizarre proposal, and I don't think it has legs, to be honest.
And I'm sure reputationally for those businesses, they're really going to disclose that data, aren't they?
And they already got the gender pay gap data waived this year. They didn't have to do that. So that was a good thing. So don't add this onto their
well, I mean, the gender pay gap's a joke anyway, isn't it? Because nobody actually can understand how it is that they come about the so-called gender pay gap in the first place, because they don't actually, they're comparing apples and oranges. They're not comparing, like with like. They're not
it's
saying,
like if the person at the desk downstairs earned less than you because they're a woman.
Right.
But it wouldn't be because they're a woman.
There's also a bloke down there who's earning less than me, and I'm not a woman either. So, you just go, well, what the hell's going on here? What's the difference? So I'm going to make it even more London-centric now by going for Sadiq Khan. Not just because he's a complete plank most of the time and he's on this list, he's won it several times actually. Not just because he's now he's put the congestion charge up and extended it, not just because of all the cycle lanes, not just because he then went out after having told everyone to stay at home, is now trying to encourage people to go back to restaurants in London, even though he's been telling them not to bother, and he's making it more and more difficult for people to go anywhere. Not only because he didn't bother protecting anybody on Transport for London, but, and it's actually quite unfair this, because I'm told that it wasn't actually his fault. However, when the Tower Bridge got stuck the other day, and nobody could get over it, because for some reason something went wrong with the mechanism. Did you not see this?
No,
I think it was Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
So it was stuck like that. It started to come back. They'd opened it up for a ship or something, right?
Yeah.
And it went like, and it just sort of went. It was like that for about 4 hours, right? Now, under normal circumstances, you just say that's okay. We'll just use another bridge. London Bridge is shut, right? So that's the next bridge along. You can't go over that. If you get to the next bridge, Southwark Bridge, that's partially shut. The next bridge from that is Blackfriars Bridge, which if you haven't got a migraine by the time you've reached the other side of it because of all the different traffic lights and cycle lanes and all that. So basically the whole city was completely gridlocked for the whole of Sunday. And he said that it wasn't his fault because nothing ever is his fault. But I mean, quite frankly, if you're the mayor of London, his office is right next to Tower Bridge.
It's right next door.
It's right there, and he didn't bother doing anything. He didn't come out and say anything. It was just an absolute shambles. And the more you look at what he does and what he doesn't do, the more you think this guy's absolutely hopeless.
Oh yeah, he's totally unaccountable for his decisions as well because he doesn't answer any questions. He's infuriating.
And he never comes on my show.
Despot.
We've asked him about 15 times to come on the show. and now he doesn't even bother answering.
I'm not
to
surprised.
say no.
So he doesn't even go on basically a lot of
He
channels,
goes on James
right?
O'Brien's
Doesn't go
show.
on LBC.
He goes on James O'Brien's show
just
once
James
a week.
O'Brien.
They probably go on real well.
We were going to mention James O'Brien, actually. We should give him an honourable mention. He's not going to be a plank because I don't want to make him too famous.
Yeah.
But he has behaved very plankishly, has he not, by telling his caller, who basically rang up his show to say, he was trending on Twitter because of this.
Yeah.
Caller rang up to say, look, I think my kids should be going back to school. He basically said to him, if any child dies, it's on you.
Exactly, and he did.
Unbelievable.
And, you know what? It's funny because the first I heard of it, I saw he was trending, and then I saw obviously that LBC had put out his channel had basically put out a statement.
They
saying,
deleted the tweet first.
Yeah, we put something out wrong, and it was misquoting. Here is the full interview, and I watched the whole interview.
It was no different.
And it was no different.
No.
So unless I'm missing
Also,
something
how is putting out an actual factual rendition of a telephone interview in some way out of context?
Also,
Sorry.
He was so quick to throw his team under the bus
Oh, yeah.
and LBC.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
like it was their fault, not mine.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, that's not very team-like.
Well, I don't think
no
team,
camaraderie there.
It's not. I don't think team is a word that he uses an awful
No,
lot.
I don't think so.
You know, I think he's
Just
a bit of a solo player, but there we are. So we won't make him a plank because I don't want to give him that much publicity. But there we are. So we've now got 9, I think, haven't we? So now we have to whittle them down, right, to 1 each. So do you want to choose mine or his?
I don't mind.
Okay.
I'll choose Will's.
Choose Will's. Okay, so Will, tell us your 3 again.
Okay, so my 3 again was Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yep.
Finger looking good.
So I thought that was a good move.
Yeah.
Avanti trains.
Yep.
Yeah.
And their beautiful new livery. And thirdly, cyclists, and especially pavement cyclists.
Yes.
I'm going to go for cyclists just because they've been winding me up so much on social media recently.
Yes.
They just can't
They
stop.
are sort of a ghastly breed of people on Twitter in particular. I don't know what it is about.
Just
they're
think,
so
no, they're all in their
vitriolic.
lycra,
They're all-
don't you?
Yeah.
But those are the ones. I mean, I don't actually mind anyone on a bike who's not wearing lycra because normally you can then say, oh, it's just somebody taking a bike cycle
me,
ride somewhere.
on my
Yeah.
Santander.
Or you're trying to get from point A to point B. But these wallies that dress in lycra, you're just thinking, what do you think you look like? You know, you're not in the Tour de France. You are not a professional cyclist. I don't care
And
who you
sadly,
think
they're
you look like.
middle-aged men like you and me.
Well, they are.
Mike.
They
But I
are
mean, you know.
speedometers as well.
Oh, they've got all the gear. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the sort of special go faster helmets and all this, but absolutely mad. Okay, so I'd better pick yours then, I think. I think that's how it's going to work.
it's,
So your 3?
Meghan, Sean Bailey, and the director of the British Museum.
Ah, yes. I think it's going to have to be Meghan. It's going to have to be Meghan.
You love Meghan.
I
Are
do.
we going to get one of your impersonations?
Harry, let's make a video, Harry. Oh, we made one yesterday.
It's quite infamous, that.
People now look at her and hear my voice. I mean, when she talks, somebody actually, I think, was it you that said, I now watch her and just hear my impersonation. That's actually quite funny.
When you say, Harry, you can be the idiot, and I'll be the star.
And I'll be the star. I mean, you can imagine her saying it. Okay.
Oh, poor Harry.
Poor
I
old
feel
Harry.
So sorry
I mean,
for
one
him.
of these days, you know, you may have to go rescue him. You might get the order.
You know what? I'd do that one for free. Poor boy.
How long's it going to last? Bets.
Well, I say 5 years.
And I'd put a book open on 5 years.
I would say, yeah.
I mean, you have more experience than me, so I'll go for that too.
Very well
Oh,
put.
that was good.
That was cutting, but,
Blow, blow,
true.
blow
But
from
very
the
true.
Carver.
Defensive
Blow,
truth.
blow.
All right, so you have to pick my 3 now.
And your 3
So
again,
I've got
Mike.
Sadiq
Worth.
Khan, the Daily Mail, and the BBC.
You know what? Being a patriot, I'm going to have to go with the BBC.
Yes, I think that's right.
And the
They've
proms.
certainly earned it this week with
Yeah.
all of the plankery with the proms. So that means we've got the BBC, we've got Meghan Markle and the cyclists. So one of those drops
Gotta
away.
do the BBC.
What, number 1?
Yeah,
you think?
it's number 1.
You go with that?
I'd go with that.
I'd go with that.
I'd go with that.
I'd go with that. Should we
Yeah.
do, because it's a bit London-centric, we make cyclists number 3 then, and make Meghan number 2? Because it is Republican National Convention week, don't forget. And she's urging everybody, just 75 days to go.
To
And
vote
that's
for a
quite
change.
close. And she goes, that's quite close. It's like, actually, it's not that close. 75 days is a long time to wait for a bus. You know? How is 75 days not that long?
It's the blinking to the
Yeah.
camera.
Have you noticed that she does that to almost everybody she talks to, though? You know? It's just,
Is it a double blink? I never noticed.
She's just acting.
Is it a,
I mean, basically, she's an actress, right? She's every single clip
she's
that
very
you see.
good.
She's not very good when she's actually acting, but she's very good at
I've
acting
never
like a
seen
princess.
any of her shows.
Have you not seen all the
No.
filth from Suits that she used to do?
No,
I'm
Oh,
surprised.
No, but that
All right.
fast forward button
But
might
you'll
be
be able to
getting
find it
smashed.
now that I've told you.
Also tight pencil
Yeah,
skirt.
there's a lot of sort of snoggage going on.
Snoggage.
And she's quite
Awesome.
underdressed in quite a lot of it as well.
Fantastic.
So it's
Again,
right
my
up your
interest
street.
peaks.
Yeah, well, indeed. So we've got the BBC as planks of the week, which is hardly surprising, really, because they certainly have dominated the news, and I think they're very, very well deserved. Now, don't forget, we'll be back next week with more planks. I'd like to thank you, Emily, and you, Will, for coming in all this way to do this great work. However, what I will say is just before we go, don't go anywhere, because we've got a little bit of a bonus coming after this. So now that we know who the plank of the week is, it is, of course, the BBC. There's only one thing left to do. So, Emily and Will, I'm going to ask you to please stand tall for Queen and Country, and let's do a bit of this. Land of hope and glory, mother of the free, how shall we extol thee, who are born of thee? Wider still and wider shall thy bounds be set.